Have you ever paused to look at money not as paper, metal, or numbers on a glowing screen, but as a mirror? A mirror that doesn't reflect your face, but your deepest habits, your unspoken priorities, and the silent rules you live by. Money, in its quiet way, has no voice of its own, and yet it constantly speaks. It speaks in receipts stuffed into drawers, in the credit card bill that arrives at the end of the month, in the spare change at the bottom of a pocket, and in the savings that either grow steadily or vanish with each impulse. Whether we realize it or not, money has been keeping track of us, recording our choices and reflecting them back. When you open your wallet or log into your bank account, you are looking into a truth-telling surface. It shows what you value without you having to say it. If your balance is drained by quick pleasures, coffee to go, gadgets that lose their charm after a week, clothes worn only once, then money reveals impatience and the hunger for instant gratification. If instead you see a savings account nurtured with care or investments chosen thoughtfully, money reflects foresight, patience, and a trust in the future. It is as if every dollar is a footprint left behind, showing where you have walked and what direction you thought was worth traveling. Think of someone who earns much but saves nothing. Outwardly, they may appear successful. Their car shines, their home impresses guests, their vacations draw admiration online, but money whispers another story. Month after month, the mirror of money reveals tension. Debt mounting silently, a dependence on credit, a life more about display than the stability. Another person, earning modestly, chooses restraint. They skip unnecessary luxuries, cook simple meals, and save consistently. Their money reflects a different truth, not wealth in numbers alone, but peace, security, and a discipline that cannot be faked. This is why money is called a mirror. It does not flatter, it does not exaggerate. It simply records. For some, that reflection is uncomfortable, even painful. Looking into it means confronting habits that feel embarrassing or reckless. But here lies the hidden gift. The mirror never lies, and in its honesty, it provides the chance to change. Unlike the opinions of others, money's reflection is not clouded by jealousy or kindness. It simply tells you what is, and what is can be altered, if you have the courage to see it clearly. The silent mirror of money also shows what we truly value, beyond words. Many say they value family, but their money reveals otherwise. A parent might buy the newest gadgets for themselves while neglecting to save for their child's education. Others claim to prize health, yet spend more on fleeting pleasures than on nourishing food or care for their body. Money never criticizes, but its reflection raises the question: do your words and your values truly align with the trail your dollars have left behind? To understand money in this way is to recognize that every expense is not just a transaction, it is a declaration. Each time we choose how to spend or save, we are voting for the kind of life we believe in. A meal out might be a celebration or an escape. A book purchased could be an investment in growth or another item left unread. The mirror doesn't label the act as good or bad. It simply shows the pattern, leaving us to decide whether we want to keep walking that path or turn toward another. Money, in its silent honesty, also strips away illusions. Many people define themselves by their intentions. They say, "I want to be responsible," or "I care about the future." But intentions don't fill savings accounts. The reflection of money reveals what was done, not what was promised. It is the difference between the gym membership never used and the quiet jog taken each morning. Actions recorded by money outweigh dreams spoken but not lived. There is another truth hidden in this mirror. It is deeply personal. Two people may earn the same salary, yet their reflections differ completely. One lives in constant stress, unable to keep track, always chasing the next paycheck. The other finds stability, not because they earn more, but because they align their spending with their priorities. The mirror of money shows that it is not how much flows in, but how faithfully it is guided once it enters your hands. Even in cultures and families, the mirror works quietly. Some are raised with the teaching that money is scarce, that it must be clutched tightly and never risked. Others grow up where money is spent as quickly as it arrives, teaching that pleasure is fleeting and must be seized. In adulthood, these inherited patterns continue until we pause and look at the reflection with awareness. Only then can we ask, are these truly my values or merely shadows passed down to me? And yet, as harsh as this mirror can be, it is also just. It gives exactly what we put in. If we pour thoughtlessness into it, it reflects instability. If we pour consistency and care, it reflects security. In this sense, money is the fairest of all teachers. It rewards discipline and punishes neglect, not out of malice, but because that is its nature. It holds no grudge. It simply returns what it has been given. So, as we begin this journey together, pause for a moment and reflect. What does your money reveal about you today? If you could see your spending and saving as brushstrokes on a canvas, what kind of picture would you see? Is it chaotic, full of bright splashes with no design? Or is it measured, each line placed with purpose? Money does not shout. It does not argue. But it always speaks. And when we choose to listen, we discover it is not just paper or numbers. It is the truest mirror of who we are becoming. From here, let us step deeper. If money is indeed a mirror, then what happens when that reflection becomes fractured? When the surface no longer shows control, but chaos? This is where the second lesson begins. The painful, undeniable teachings of debt, loss, and lack of restraint. There comes a time in almost every person's life when money ceases to be a quiet reflection and instead becomes a stern voice. It is no longer the mirror simply showing us patterns. It turns into the teacher correcting us, sometimes with a sting so sharp it leaves a mark on the soul. These moments often arrive in the form of debt, sudden loss, or the creeping awareness that control has slipped through our fingers. For many, it begins innocently enough. A purchase here, a loan there, a small delay in paying attention. But over time, the cracks widen, and money no longer reflects habits. It exposes them. Debt is one of the harshest lessons money delivers. At first, debt feels like a friend. It whispers, take what you need now, and you can pay later. The credit card swipes easily, the loan provides quick relief, and the sense of freedom seems intoxicating. But hidden beneath is the weight of chains, links that tighten slowly until they are impossible to ignore. Every month, the statement arrives like a report card, reminding us that the small comforts of yesterday have become the burdens of today. And unlike a kind teacher, debt does not forget. It grows with interest, multiplying until even the original lesson is buried under layers of obligation. Yet, as painful as it is, debt teaches responsibility more effectively than lectures ever could. It reveals the cost of impatience. It shows how each choice compounds, just as each dollar borrowed becomes more dollars owed. For the one who listens, debt becomes a warning not to be taken lightly again. For the one who refuses to listen, the lesson repeats, growing harsher each time, until life itself feels trapped by obligations. In this way, money is not cruel, it is exact. It magnifies our lack of discipline until we cannot look away. Then there is the lesson of loss. A lost investment, a failed business, an unexpected expense that wipes away savings. These moments feel devastating. They are nights spent awake, replaying decisions, asking, why didn't I see it? Why wasn't I careful? In the silence after loss, there is often grief. Not only for the money gone, but for the dream that money carried with it. The home that could have been, the security that was supposed to last, the opportunity that now feels vanished. But within loss lies another teaching: impermanence. Money shows us that nothing is certain, that even careful planning can meet the storm of life. And yet those who face loss discover resilience they never knew they had. They rebuild, often slower, but stronger. They carry scars that remind them to weigh risks more carefully, to guard against arrogance, and to balance hope with prudence. Loss, painful though it is, cleanses illusions and awakens humility. A third form of painful teaching comes from lack of control. When money slips away unnoticed, spent in bits and pieces until there is none left, it leaves behind a hollow echo. It is not always a grand debt or a dramatic loss. Sometimes the pain comes from realizing you simply let time and resources scatter. You look back at months, even years of income and ask, where did it all go? That question is its own wound, because it is not the absence of money that hurts most, but the awareness that you had it and you wasted it. This lack of control teaches us to pay attention, to watch the small choices, because they add up faster than we imagine. Just as a leak in a roof begins with one drop of water, financial chaos begins with one unexamined expense. Money's lesson here is patience, to notice the details, to respect the small as much as the large, and to understand that discipline is not only about major decisions, but about everyday awareness. Painful though they may be, these experiences are not punishments. They are instructions. Money does not seek revenge, it simply holds up the results of our actions. Debt shows us impatience. Loss shows us impermanence. Lack of control shows us neglect. In the moment, it feels unfair. We ask, why me? Why this hardship? But when the storm passes, the truth emerges. Without these lessons, growth would never occur. Just as the body strengthens after strain, so does the soul mature after financial trial. There is another side to these harsh lessons: gratitude. It is only through experiencing the sting of debt that freedom tastes sweet. Only after the emptiness of loss does the rebuilding feel sacred. Only when control has been absent do we learn to treasure the calm of balance. The lessons money delivers through pain are the foundation upon which wisdom is built. Those who embrace them find themselves not broken, but reshaped. Those who resist often find themselves repeating the same trial until the lesson is finally understood. So, when money seems harsh, when it takes rather than gives, pause and listen. It may be the very moment in which the strictest teacher has arrived with the most important truth. The classroom is not a school, but your own life. The subject is not arithmetic, but patience, humility, and self-awareness. And the exam is not written, but lived, measured in choices made each day. From here, the journey deepens. Having seen how money can wound through debt, loss, and neglect, the question becomes, what now? How do we respond after facing these trials? The next step leads us into the heart of financial maturity, the discipline that transforms pain into resilience and chaos into clarity. Discipline has always been the bridge between lessons learned and wisdom lived. When it comes to money, discipline is not about restriction for the sake of punishment, but about forging a strength that lasts through both feast and famine. It is in the fire of financial struggle, debt, loss, and lack of control that this discipline is tempered. Without it, money remains a harsh teacher, repeating the same painful lessons. With it, money becomes a tool of transformation. Consider the act of budgeting. Many see it as dull, even oppressive, a list of rules dictating what cannot be done. Yet beneath that surface lies a profound truth. Budgeting is not about saying no, it is about saying yes with clarity. Each time you set aside money for savings, you are saying yes to your future self. Each time you choose to delay a purchase, you are saying yes to stability. Budgeting becomes less a cage and more a map, a way to navigate the landscape of life without getting lost in the fog of impulse. Discipline also appears in the form of restraint. In a world that constantly whispers, "Buy now, upgrade today, indulge while you can," restraint feels like rebellion. But it is precisely this rebellion that builds freedom. To walk through a store or scroll through an endless feed of advertisements, and yet choose only what is necessary. That is strength. Restraint is not deprivation. It is mastery. It is the knowledge that satisfaction does not come from possessing more, but from owning what aligns with your values. This form of discipline demands patience. It is the patience to wait for growth, to allow savings to accumulate slowly, to invest in opportunities that bloom over time rather than chasing the quick thrill of immediate gain. The patient individual understands that wealth is not a sprint, but a long walk. Each step may feel small, but over the years, the distance covered is immense. Discipline whispers, "Trust the process. Do the work today, and tomorrow will carry the fruit." For some, discipline is born out of necessity. A crisis arrives. The mirror of money shows chaos, and suddenly, there is no choice but to cut back, to restructure, to take control. And yet, even in these moments, there is opportunity. Adversity sharpens focus. It strips away the non-essential and forces clarity. Food, shelter, security, health, these become the priorities, and all else is seen in their shadow. What feels like limitation becomes the soil where discipline takes root. But true discipline is not only reactive, it is proactive. It is choosing to live with intention before crisis demands it. It is deciding to save even when income is steady, to practice moderation even when abundance flows. In this way, discipline becomes not just a response to pain, but a constant companion, a steady hand guiding each decision. The strongest financial lives are not built on sudden bursts of effort, but on quiet, consistent habits. Responsibility is woven tightly with discipline. To be disciplined is to take ownership, not only of money, but of time, energy, and choices. When you accept that every dollar is a decision, you also accept that every consequence is yours. This awareness can feel heavy at first, like a burden, but with time, it becomes empowering. You realize that you are not a victim of money's whims. You are the steward of its flow. Examples of discipline surround us. The family that chooses to live below their means, not because they cannot afford more, but because they value peace over pressure. The young worker who sets aside a portion of every paycheck, even when friends spend freely, knowing that future stability matters more than present appearances. The retiree who lives comfortably, not because of sudden fortune, but because of decades of consistent, disciplined practice. In each case, the story is not of restriction, but of quiet freedom earned through steady choices. Discipline, however, does not mean perfection. Mistakes will still happen. The difference is that discipline turns mistakes into lessons, not disasters. A missed payment is corrected quickly, rather than ignored. A poor purchase is noted and not repeated, rather than defended with pride. Discipline allows room for humanity while maintaining the direction of growth. It is here that money begins to shift its role. No longer merely a punishing teacher, it becomes a partner in training. Each month of budgeting, each act of restraint, each moment of patience is like lifting a weight. The muscle of financial maturity strengthens, and what once felt impossible becomes natural. Over time, this discipline expands beyond money. It influences health, relationships, and the very way one approaches life. And so, money's lesson in discipline is not about the numbers themselves. It is about shaping character. It is about proving to yourself that you can choose wisely, that you can resist the fleeting for the sake of the lasting, that you can carry responsibility without being crushed by it. The person who learns this discipline does not merely manage money, they manage themselves. As we move forward, a deeper truth begins to unfold. Discipline lays the foundation, but discipline alone is not enough. To live fully, one must see money for what it truly is, not the ultimate goal, not the source of identity, but a servant. A tool that can build or destroy depending on how it is used. And so the next step is to shift our vision, to see beyond the surface, and to understand money's true place in the architecture of life. There is a quiet but dangerous illusion that whispers to many that money is the final destination, the proof of success, the crown of achievement. This illusion drives people into endless pursuits, restless nights, and choices that sacrifice health, relationships, and even dignity. And yet, the deeper truth is this: money was never meant to be the goal. It was always meant to be the tool. A tool by its nature serves. A hammer builds, but no one confuses the hammer with the house. A pen writes, but no one mistakes the pen for the wisdom contained in the words. In the same way, money is a medium. It allows, it enables, it constructs, but it cannot give meaning on its own. When treated as a savior, it disappoints. When treated as a servant, it empowers. To see money as a tool requires a shift of vision. For many, this shift comes only after years of chasing wealth as though it were an oasis. They arrive with pockets full, but hearts empty. The house stands large, but it feels hollow. The bank account grows, but joy shrinks. Why? Because the purpose was misplaced. Money was worshipped as the end, and in doing so, it could never deliver more than its limited promise. When money is reframed as a tool, something profound happens. Choices gain clarity. The question changes from how much can I get to what can I build? Instead of measuring life by accumulation, it is measured by creation. Money becomes wood in the hands of a craftsman, clay for the sculptor, colors for the painter. Its value is found not in the pile itself, but in what it allows to emerge. Take, for example, the person who earns a high income and spends it all on self-indulgence. Their money builds nothing beyond fleeting satisfaction. Compare that to the one who uses money to educate their children, to care for their parents, to build opportunities that outlast their own life. Both may have the same amount pass through their hands, but the second has transformed money into legacy. The tool has been wielded, not idolized. This shift also brings freedom. Those who see money as the ultimate goal live in constant anxiety. Every fluctuation in income feels like a threat to identity. Every loss feels like failure. But those who see money as a tool are not enslaved by it. They understand that even if the tool is broken, another can be found and the work can continue. Their sense of worth is not chained to the digits in an account, but to the meaning they craft with what they have. Of course, the world rarely teaches this. From advertisements to social pressures, everything seems to scream that money equals happiness. The newest car, the largest home, the flashiest vacation. All are held up as proof of a life well lived. Yet behind these images, countless people struggle silently with emptiness because the tool has been mistaken for the treasure. It is like praising the shovel instead of the garden it was meant to create. To adopt the right perspective, one must constantly return to this truth. Money has no soul, no moral compass. It does not love or hate. It does not promise or betray. It simply obeys. In the hands of the selfish, it magnifies selfishness. In the hands of the generous, it magnifies generosity. In this sense, money is neutral, but the use of it is not. The way we wield it becomes the true reflection of who we are. This understanding softens life's blows as well. When losses come, they are not seen as the destruction of identity, but as the loss of a tool. Just as a carpenter mourns a broken hammer, but knows another can be found, the wise person mourns financial setbacks, but does not confuse them with personal ruin. The lesson is clear. You are more than your money, but your money will always reveal the way you think about life. When people awaken to this truth, they often describe a lightness. They no longer need to chase every opportunity, no longer need to prove worth through possessions. Instead, they ask, what matters most to me, and how can I use money to serve it? In that moment, money is dethroned as master and welcomed as servant. And the life built from that foundation carries a stability that cannot be shaken by fluctuations of fortune. But this perspective does not arise overnight. It takes practice. It takes the discipline of choosing not to be dazzled by appearance, of asking the deeper questions. What am I building? Whom am I serving? Does this expense align with my purpose, or is it only feeding my ego? These are not easy questions, but they are liberating ones. And every time they are asked, money's power to enslave weakens. In the end, the shift is simple but profound. Money is not the destination. It is the vehicle. It is not the fire. It is the spark that lights what already exists within. The true measure of money is not how much you have, but how wisely you wield it. And when this lesson is learned, something extraordinary happens. The teacher, once harsh and unyielding, begins to soften. Money no longer arrives only as correction or punishment. Instead, it begins to stand beside you, not above you. The tool becomes a trusted companion, a partner in creating a life of stability and purpose. From here, the journey moves toward transformation. If money is no longer a master and discipline has been embraced, then what remains is the chance to invite money into its most rewarding role, not as a tyrant, but as a loyal friend. There comes a turning point in every student's journey with money, a moment when the harsh voice of correction softens and something more human emerges. The lessons of the mirror, the sting of debt, the strength forged through discipline, and the shift in perspective all lead here to the possibility of friendship. Money, once feared or misunderstood, becomes not just a tool, but a trusted companion. One that walks beside you instead of towering over you. Think of how relationships evolve. At first, there is distance and unfamiliarity. Trust must be tested. Boundaries are set, mistakes are made, forgiveness is given. Over time, with patience and respect, what once felt intimidating becomes familiar, dependable, even comforting. The same is true of money. For those who fight it, deny it, or worship it, money remains a harsh master. But for those who accept its teachings, who learn its rhythms and respect its boundaries, money becomes an ally, a presence that offers support in times of need and strength in moments of opportunity. To see money as a friend is to recognize its constancy. Money does not vanish when used wisely. It circulates. It is like water flowing through a stream, nourishing as it goes. It allows meals to be shared, homes to be built, dreams to be pursued. Friendship with money means no longer living in fear of it, no longer clutching it so tightly that joy disappears, nor scattering it so recklessly that regret follows. Instead, it is held with open hands, appreciated, guided, and released when the time is right. This friendship reveals itself most clearly in moments of stability. When emergencies arise and money is there because it has been cared for, it feels like a friend who shows up without being asked. When opportunities appear and money is ready to support the step forward, it feels like a partner who says, "I am here, let's walk together." Money becomes more than digits. It becomes trust embodied. But friendship is never one-sided. Just as a true friend deserves respect, so does money. Neglect breeds distance, abuse breeds pain. Those who treat money carelessly eventually find it withdrawing, leaving them exposed to the consequences of their choices. Those who hoard it selfishly discover it does not bring joy, only isolation. Friendship thrives when there is balance, generosity matched with prudence, planning balanced with flexibility. There is also a spiritual dimension to this friendship. Money, when aligned with values, amplifies what is most important. A person who values education uses money to open doors for learning. One who values compassion directs money toward helping others. One who values creativity invests in art, invention, or expression. In these cases, money ceases to be about personal gain and becomes a channel for something greater. It is as if money itself rejoices in being used well for purposes that ripple outward and touch lives beyond our own. This shift changes the way life feels. Anxiety softens, replaced by calm. Every paycheck, every expense, every act of saving carries a sense of partnership. Money is no longer a stranger knocking on the door each month with demands. It is a companion, already seated at the table, sharing the journey. Even in times of scarcity, the friendship endures. For the one who has learned its lessons, a smaller income does not mean despair, but adaptation. The friendship rests not on how much is present, but on how wisely it is honored. When money is finally seen as a companion, it reflects back a different kind of truth. It no longer says only, "Here are your mistakes." It begins to whisper, "Here is your growth." It shows the long trail of consistent choices, the balance between giving and keeping, the quiet victories of discipline. And in those reflections, a person sees not just money, but themselves, matured, strengthened, transformed. This friendship also extends into the way we relate to others. A person who is at peace with money shares that peace. They are not envious of another's wealth, nor ashamed of their own. They do not use money to boast, nor do they hide it in fear. Instead, they use it as a bridge, supporting loved ones, investing in community, creating spaces where others can thrive. Money as a companion connects lives rather than dividing them. This stage of the journey brings an unexpected gift: gratitude. Gratitude for the harsh lessons, for the long nights of worry, for the mistakes that forced growth. Gratitude even for the discipline that once felt heavy, because all of it led here, to a place where money no longer threatens, but supports. Gratitude transforms the relationship, turning every dollar not into a burden, but into a blessing. And so, money the strict teacher becomes money the steadfast friend. But even here, the journey is not complete. Friendship with money requires vigilance, awareness, and continual learning. Because beneath the companionship lies the deeper truth. Money is always testing, always teaching. It does not cease to reflect. It does not stop reminding. It simply rewards those who have chosen to listen with greater peace and freedom. From here, the path leads us toward the conclusion of this long apprenticeship. For if money can transform from enemy to friend, then the final lesson remains to be understood, that money is, and always has been, the fairest of teachers, unyielding but never unjust. Strict teachers are often remembered not for their kindness, but for their fairness. They are the ones who hand back papers without sugarcoating, who circle every mistake in red, who demand more than we thought we could give. In the moment, their presence feels heavy, even harsh. And yet, years later, many of us look back and admit it was those teachers who shaped us the most. Money belongs firmly in this category. It is strict, but it is unfailingly fair. When you spend recklessly, money records it without hesitation. When you save diligently, money rewards you with growth and security. It does not care who you are, where you were born, or what intentions you whisper at night. Money does not bend for excuses. It listens only to action. In this sense, it is one of life's most impartial judges. It does not flatter the wealthy nor pity the poor. It magnifies choices, for better or for worse, and places the results squarely in our hands. This fairness is what makes money such a reliable teacher. Unlike people who may misinterpret or show bias, money's lessons are precise. Overspend today, and tomorrow reveals the shortfall. Save consistently, and time rewards you with interest and security. Ignore the budget, and chaos follows. Respect it, and order emerges. The law is simple: cause and effect, and though it may sting, there is comfort in its certainty. Consider the farmer who sows seeds in good soil and waters them with care. The harvest comes not as a surprise, but as a natural consequence. In the same way, money reflects the seeds of our financial choices. A field neglected will not produce crops, no matter how much we desire them. A field tended with patience yields abundantly. Money is neither cruel nor kind, it is simply just. It gives what is earned, no more, no less. This justice carries profound lessons for life beyond finances. It teaches accountability. In a world where blame is often shifted onto circumstances, onto others, onto fate, money refuses to play along. The bank account does not lie. The credit report does not exaggerate. The unpaid bill does not vanish because of excuses. This clarity may feel unforgiving, but it is also liberating. For once we accept the truth of money's fairness, we recognize our power. We cannot always control how much comes in, but we can always control how we guide what we receive. The fairness of money also teaches humility. There are those who, drunk on sudden fortune, believe themselves untouchable. Yet when arrogance blinds them, money swiftly withdraws its favor. Investments crumble, businesses collapse, wealth evaporates. The mirror reflects the lack of wisdom behind the shine. Conversely, those who handle even small amounts with care often find themselves entrusted with more. The lesson is clear. Humility is rewarded, arrogance punished, not because money seeks revenge, but because fairness demands it. It also teaches balance. To hoard money with fear is to miss the joy it can bring when shared. To spend recklessly is to miss the security it provides when kept. The strict fairness of money calls us into the middle path, where saving and spending exist in harmony, where generosity is paired with wisdom, and where the flow of money matches the rhythm of life itself. Fairness, however, does not mean ease. Strict teachers rarely make life comfortable. Money will test you again and again. It will expose impatience, tempt with excess, and challenge restraint. Each trial is an opportunity. Fail, and the consequence arrives swiftly. Learn, and the reward is equally swift. This rhythm of trial and response is what makes money's lessons unforgettable. Pain sharpens memory, but fairness builds wisdom. To accept money as a fair teacher is to release resentment. Many people feel anger toward money, blaming it for their struggles. But money has no malice. It is not the enemy. It simply reflects and multiplies what is already present within us. To hate money is to miss the lesson. To respect it is to begin transforming. Respect acknowledges that the rules will not change for us. We must change for them. And here lies the quiet beauty of money's fairness. It applies to all. A child saving coins in a jar learns the same principle as a business leader managing millions. The scale differs, but the lesson is identical. Stewardship matters. Choices matter. Discipline matters. The fairness of money unites us all under the same law, no matter our station in life. As we reach this understanding, the journey with money comes full circle. We began with the mirror, seeing our habits reflected. We passed through the sting of debt, the trials of loss, the fire of discipline, the revelation of money as a tool, and the warmth of money as a friend. And now we arrive at the recognition that under it all, money remains the fairest of teachers. Unyielding in its justice, unwavering in its rules, and yet endlessly available to guide us if we choose to listen. The story does not end here. For even fairness, once understood, points us toward a higher question. What legacy will we create with this teacher's lessons? If money is a strict but just instructor, then how we use what we've learned determines the mark we leave behind. That next chapter is not only about money itself, but about meaning, about shaping a life where money serves purpose rather than replacing it. Responsibility is the natural companion to discipline and fairness. Without responsibility, discipline becomes hollow routine, and fairness feels like punishment instead of growth. To step into true adulthood, whether one is 18 or 80, is to look directly at the consequences of financial choices and claim them without deflection. This is where money, as a teacher, moves us from adolescence of the spirit into maturity. For many, responsibility with money begins late. In youth, money often feels like magic. A paycheck appears or a card swipes, and life continues seamlessly. The consequences are hidden in the background, deferred to some future day. But sooner or later, reality knocks. The rent is due, the loan must be repaid, the emergency expense cannot be ignored. In these moments, a choice is revealed: to blame others or to accept responsibility. Those who choose the latter begin walking the path of maturity. Accepting responsibility means shifting language. Instead of saying, "The bills are overwhelming me," the responsible person says, "I chose these commitments and I must honor them." Instead of saying, "I can't save because life is unfair," they say, "I have not yet made saving a priority, and I can change that." The language of responsibility is empowering. It removes the victim's cloak and replaces it with the mantle of ownership. This is the turning point where growth accelerates. Responsibility also deepens respect for money itself. When you see each dollar, not as a fleeting piece of paper, but as a messenger of your decisions, you treat it differently. You realize that carelessly spent money is not just a lost transaction. It is a lost opportunity, a door closed, a path not taken. Responsibility urges you to pause before every choice, to weigh the cost not just in numbers but in values. Does this align with the life I am building, or does it betray it? There is a profound dignity in responsibility. It gives shape to life. The one who accepts responsibility no longer runs from bills or hides from statements. They face them openly, even if the numbers sting, because they know that honesty is the first step toward change. In that honesty, shame begins to dissolve. replaced by clarity. Clarity becomes plan, and plan becomes freedom. Responsibility transforms what once felt unbearable into the very ground on which stability is built. Think of a family raising children. To provide not only food and shelter, but also education, love, and example, requires constant financial choices. Parents who avoid responsibility leave their children with instability, anxiety, and perhaps even resentment. But parents who embrace it, even with modest means, create a foundation of trust. They show their children that responsibility is not about having abundance, but about handling whatever is present with care and consistency. Responsibility also demands foresight. It is not only about paying today's bills, but about preparing for tomorrow's needs, to save for retirement, to insure against emergencies, to plan for education. All of these are acts of responsibility. They require us to think beyond the moment, to imagine futures not yet seen, and to honor those futures by preparing for them today. It is a quiet form of love, extended not only to ourselves, but to those who depend on us. This maturity changes the way life feels. Irresponsibility breeds chaos, late fees, mounting debt, constant stress. Responsibility breeds calm. Even when money is tight, the knowledge that each dollar is being handled with purpose creates peace. This peace ripples outward into relationships, into work, into health. Partners argue less, children feel secure, the mind rests easier at night. Responsibility, though it may seem heavy at first, lightens the whole of life. There is also a spiritual lesson here. Responsibility reminds us that money is never entirely ours. It flows through our lives, but does not belong to us in eternity. We are stewards entrusted for a time. How we use that trust reflects not only our character, but our understanding of life itself. Do we squander the trust, or do we honor it? Do we let money slip through our hands unnoticed, or do we guide it with care, aware that it can shape futures far beyond our own lifespan? For those who embrace responsibility, money ceases to be frightening. Even difficulties become manageable because there is no longer denial. The storm may rage, but the responsible person has already prepared the shelter, or at least accepts the work required to repair the damage. This attitude turns every challenge into another opportunity to prove resilience. In this way, money's role as a teacher continues. First it reflects, then it disciplines, then it offers fairness, and now it demands responsibility. The lessons are cumulative, each building upon the last until the student begins to resemble the teacher, steady, honest, impartial, and clear. And once responsibility takes root, a new clarity dawns. Money is not the meaning of life, but it is an instrument of life. It is neither savior nor curse. It is a servant waiting for direction. The next step, then, is to see money not as burden or test, but as tool, simple, neutral, ready to be wielded with purpose. Once responsibility has been accepted, the relationship with money begins to settle into something steady. The fear lessens, the shame softens, and a new perspective emerges. At this stage, money finally reveals its truest role. It is a tool, nothing more and nothing less. The confusion arises when people mistake the tool for the treasure. But when we see clearly, money takes its proper place, ready to serve, never to command. Imagine a carpenter holding a hammer. In the hands of a skilled builder, the hammer can raise walls, mend what is broken, and create shelter for a family. But if the carpenter obsesses over the hammer itself, polishing it endlessly while leaving the wood untouched, nothing is built. The tool becomes useless when elevated above its purpose. In the same way, money is not the structure of life. It is the instrument through which the structure is shaped. This shift in vision brings profound freedom. For For those who believe money is the end goal, every fluctuation feels like catastrophe. A dip in income is a wound to identity. A loss in investment is a collapse of worth. But when money is understood as a tool, these fluctuations are seen differently. The tool may dull, break, or be temporarily lost, but the builder remains. The true wealth lies not in the tool itself, but in the skill of the hands that wield it. Seeing money as a tool transforms how choices are made. It allows us to ask better questions. What am I building with this? Whose life is improved by this? Does this purchase create lasting value, or does it only soothe me for a moment? These questions change the atmosphere around money. No longer is it about status or ego. It becomes about construction, creation, and alignment with what matters most. This perspective reshapes desire. Instead of longing for piles of wealth to sit unused, we long for opportunities to build with what we have. A modest amount of money, guided by clarity and purpose, can achieve far more than great wealth wielded without thought. A simple home filled with love, a business that uplifts a community, a scholarship that changes a child's future. These are the fruits of money used as tool rather than trophy. It is here, too, that generosity blooms. When money is no longer idolized, giving it away feels less like loss and more like investment in humanity. A donation to help the needy, a gift to support a dream, an offering to a cause that stirs the heart. All of these are ways of using money as a tool to extend values into the world. The generous discover that the tool multiplies its impact when shared and often returns in unexpected ways as opportunities, friendships, and peace of mind. This approach also steadies the storms of life. When setbacks come, the one who sees money as a tool does not crumble. They adapt. They may need to rebuild, but they know the essence of life has not been lost. The tool may be damaged, but the builder's vision endures. This resilience is a hallmark of wisdom, to know that while money supports, it does not define. Practical examples abound. The family that chooses to invest in their child's education instead of flashy possessions. The entrepreneur who uses earnings to expand services that uplift their community. The retiree who spends not to flaunt, but to savor meaningful experiences. In each case, money is not the star of the story. It is the supporting character, the tool that allows the true plot to unfold. There is also humility in this perspective. Tools do not boast, and those who wield them wisely do not need to either. They know that money is fragile. It can be lost in an instant. But they also know that what matters most cannot be taken. Integrity, relationships, creativity, and the inner wealth of peace. With this humility, money finds its rightful place and life regains its balance. And so, we reach the heart of the teaching. Money, though strict and fair, is never the end. It is a servant waiting for orders, a silent ally ready to be directed. The question is no longer, how much can I get? But, how will I use what I have? In that question lies the difference between a life spent chasing and a life spent creating. With this clarity, money's role shifts once again. No longer the punisher, no longer even just the mirror, it now becomes the steady hand that supports. When lessons are absorbed and discipline embraced, money grows into a companion, a presence that not only reflects but encourages, that not only corrects but sustains. The next step in our journey is to see how, in friendship, money walks beside us, guiding us toward purpose and peace. Desire is one of the most powerful forces in human life. It shapes careers, drives inventions, fuels relationships, and builds civilizations. But when left unchecked, desire also enslaves. Money, more than any other mirror, reveals the nature of desire. It shows whether our hunger is guided by purpose or hijacked by greed. And here lies one of its deepest teachings: to reframe desire, shifting it from a restless chase for more into a steady pursuit of meaning. Greed often disguises itself as ambition. It whispers, "Just a little more, and then you'll be secure." But that little more never ends. A bigger home leads to the dream of a mansion. A successful business ignites the itch for a larger empire. The next purchase, the next raise, the next investment, each promises satisfaction, yet each leaves the soul thirstier than before. Money, in this case, becomes a cruel master, always dangling reward just out of reach. Purpose, on the other hand, reshapes desire. It asks, why do I want this? What will it create? Who will it serve? When desire is filtered through purpose, money becomes fuel rather than chain. A dollar spent on education is no longer just expense. It is investment in growth. A gift given to a cause becomes a seed planted in the soil of humanity. Even personal pleasures, when aligned with purpose, cease to feel wasteful and begin to feel nourishing. The reframe does not demand rejection of desire. Desire itself is not the enemy. It is energy. What matters is its direction. Greed points desire inward, making it a loop that never satisfies. Purpose points desire outward, connecting it to values, to service, to legacy. Money helps reveal which path we are on. Look closely at your spending. Is it mostly about appearances, ego, and short-term thrills? Or does it reflect a deeper intention, a movement towards something lasting? This reframe also alters how we measure wealth. In the grip of greed, wealth is counted only in numbers. In the light of purpose, wealth is measured in alignment. A person with modest savings but a clear sense of mission may feel wealthier than one with vast fortune and no direction. This is why we hear stories of people who, despite riches, remain unsatisfied, while others with far less live with radiant contentment. Money reflects not the size of the bank account, but the shape of the soul's desire. One of the most liberating shifts comes when we begin to see enough as a victory, not a failure. Greed tells us that enough is never enough, that to rest is to lose. But purpose teaches that enough is a place of peace. Enough means freedom. The freedom to stop chasing shadows and to start living fully in the present. Enough is not the end of growth. It is the fertile ground from which deeper growth of character and connection can arise. There is a quiet joy in this reframed desire. The joy of buying not to impress, but to enhance life. The joy of giving not to be noticed, but to make a difference. The joy of saving not out of fear, but out of hope for the future. Money, once an anxious measure of success, becomes a calm servant of meaning. It no longer reflects hunger without end, but a steady flame of intention. This transformation can be seen in every walk of life. The entrepreneur who shifts from building wealth for ego to building a company that uplifts employees and communities. The parent who stops competing with neighbors and instead channels resources into family traditions, education, and shared memories. The retiree who invests not in extravagance, but in experiences that bring joy, wisdom, and closeness with the loved ones. Each has reframed desire, and in doing so, found peace with money. The shift from greed to purpose-centered desire is not easy. It requires continual reflection, honesty, and sometimes painful confrontation with the self, but it is also liberating. Once made, this shift ends the endless chase. It grounds us. It allows us to wake each day not asking, how much more can I get? But how can I use what I have today to live more fully? to give more deeply, to build something that lasts. And here lies the turning point. When desire is reframed, money itself changes character. It no longer taunts us with what we lack. Instead, it quietly supports the life we are consciously creating. It becomes less about accumulation and more about alignment, less about chasing, more about choosing. As we carry this lesson forward, the journey approaches its conclusion. For once, money has been reframed as mirror, teacher, discipline, tool, and companion. Its final role emerges. Money becomes not merely reflection or servant, but a true ally, one that walks with us, trusted and steady, a companion in the ongoing journey of life. There comes a moment in the journey with money when the sting of its lessons, the weight of its fairness, and the test of its discipline give way to something gentler. This is the point at which the student has absorbed enough of the teaching that money begins to shift from adversary to ally. When the lessons sink in, money becomes more than a mirror or a measuring stick. It becomes a companion, one that supports rather than scolds, guides rather than punishes. Think of the weary traveler who has walked through deserts and storms. Along the way, they stumbled, lost provisions, and bore the wounds of mistakes. But in learning to navigate the harsh terrain, they eventually find rhythm, wisdom, and endurance. Money, once the storm itself, begins to feel like a fellow traveler. It is there in the background, steady, supportive, offering quiet reassurance that the journey ahead is no longer one of chaos, but of cooperation. This companionship is not born from abundance alone. It is not about suddenly having more than enough. Rather, it arises from trust, a trust that has been built through discipline, responsibility, and the reframing of desire. The individual knows that whatever amount they hold, it is being managed with clarity. They are no longer at war with their money. They are walking alongside it, each step guided by mutual understanding. Signs of this companionship show up in daily life. Bills are no longer dreaded. They are approached with calm, planned for in advance. Savings no longer feel like deprivation. They feel like seeds quietly planted in fertile soil. Spending is no longer reckless. It is deliberate, purposeful, often joyful. Even mistakes, when they happen, do not collapse the relationship. They are seen as small reminders, not devastating blows. This stage also brings with it confidence. Not the shallow confidence of boasting or comparison, but the deep confidence of knowing that life has been aligned. There is no need to impress others, no need to measure worth against neighbors or colleagues. Money as a companion removes the constant anxiety of not enough and replaces it with a steady assurance of what I have is sufficient and what I build is meaningful. Friendship with money changes the quality of freedom. Financial freedom is often described as the ability to do whatever one wants without restriction. But in truth, freedom is the ability to live with integrity, to make choices not out of fear, but out of alignment. When money has become a companion, freedom no longer looks like extravagance, it looks like peace. It looks like the quiet ability to say yes when it matters and no when it does not. This companionship also extends outward. A person who has made peace with money radiates steadiness to those around them. Families feel more secure. Partners feel more trust. Communities benefit from the generosity and wisdom that flow from a stable relationship. The circle of impact widens because when money is no longer a tyrant, it is free to be a servant of larger purposes. But perhaps the most powerful sign of this transformation is gratitude. The same money that once seemed cruel is now appreciated. Each dollar is seen not just as currency, but as opportunity. Every bill paid is a symbol of provision. Every saved amount is a symbol of foresight. Every act of giving is a symbol of connection. Gratitude softens the entire relationship, turning money from a source of anxiety into a reminder of life's possibilities. This companionship does not mean perfection. Life will still bring surprises, job losses, market shifts, unexpected expenses. But for the one who has truly learned, these events no longer break trust. They become part of the ongoing dialogue. The companion may grow quieter in times of scarcity or stronger in times of abundance, but it remains present, faithful to the lessons already learned. And so, money's transformation is complete. From mirror to punisher, from teacher to tool, from burden to friend. Once the lessons have taken root, money is no longer an adversary. It is a partner in building, a steady presence in decision-making, a quiet companion on the path of life. From here, the story approaches its final truth. For behind every role money plays, mirror, disciplinarian, companion, there lies a single essence: fairness. The strictness never disappears, but it is balanced by justice. The journey ends not in fear or worship, but in respect. And in that respect, we discover money's ultimate lesson. It is the strictest teacher, but also the fairest. Every journey with a teacher must one day arrive at its conclusion. Some teachers leave us with fondness, others with scars, but the strictest ones are remembered for a singular quality: fairness. Money is such a teacher. It is relentless in its demands, unyielding in its expectations, yet never biased, never unjust. The lessons it delivers may sting, but they are never arbitrary. They follow the law of cause and effect, exact and precise, and in this consistency lies its ultimate gift. To call money strict is to acknowledge the discipline it enforces. It does not allow shortcuts. It does not forgive negligence with a smile. Spend without thought, and the consequence appears. Save with consistency, and the reward grows. Ignore its presence, and it withdraws. Respect it, and it multiplies. There is no bending of the rules, no exceptions made for charm or excuses. In this, money is harsher than most teachers we will ever encounter, because it refuses to be deceived. And yet, within that harshness is profound justice. Money treats all alike. It applies the same rules whether one is rich or poor, young or old. The billionaire who overspends sees wealth evaporate as surely as the worker who neglects their paycheck. The student who saves a few coins learns the same principle of compounding as the investor with millions. Money does not discriminate, it reveals. And in that revelation, it teaches us the essence of accountability. The fairness of money also liberates. Many view it as a cruel master, but when understood, it becomes a trustworthy compass. It tells us exactly where we stand without distortion. It reflects not our dreams, but our actions. It rewards consistency, punishes neglect, and offers opportunity to those who listen. In this sense, money becomes one of the few constants in a world filled with uncertainty. We may not control everything in life, but with money, we know the rules. Sow and reap, give and receive, neglect and lose. For those who resist its teaching, money remains an adversary. They repeat the same mistakes, trapped in cycles of debt, loss, and frustration. But for those who embrace its fairness, a new kind of peace emerges. They no longer fear money, nor worship it. They respect it. They accept that the rules will not change for them, but that they can change for the rules. In that acceptance lies freedom. This final stage of the journey is not about abundance or scarcity. It is about alignment. To walk in harmony with money's fairness is to live with clarity. Decisions are made with intention. Values guide expenses. Gratitude shapes desires. Money becomes not the measure of worth, but the servant of purpose. And when life's storms arrive, as they always do, The one who has listened to money's teaching stands steady, not because they control the storm, but because they have learned how to hold the rudder. Here, gratitude finds its deepest root. Gratitude for the mirror that revealed truth, for the painful lessons that shaped discipline, for the responsibility that matured character, for the reframing of desire that clarified purpose, and for the companionship that brought peace. Gratitude even for the strictness itself, because without it, we would never have grown. And so, money's role as the strictest teacher is sealed. Harsh yet just, demanding yet fair, it never abandons its post. It stands silently at the edge of every decision, reminding us that life is not measured by wealth alone, but by the wisdom with which we guide it. As we close this journey, let a question linger in your mind. The next time you hold a bill, a coin, or glance at a number in your account, will you see it as mere currency? Or will you see it as a message, a reflection, a reminder from the strict but fair teacher that has been with you all along? Money will never promise ease, but it will always offer truth. And in that truth, if we have the courage to listen, lies the freedom we have been seeking all along. The story of money as teacher is not only about finances, it is about life itself. For what other force so quietly reflects our values, so directly tests our discipline, and so faithfully rewards or corrects us? To journey with money is to journey with ourselves. Every dollar spent is a decision spoken aloud. Every saving an act of foresight, every debt a record of impatience, every investment a measure of hope. Money, strict though it may be, gives us the rare gift of clarity. In its reflection, we see our habits. In its trials, we see our weaknesses. In its fairness, we see the possibility of growth. And when at last we learn, money ceases to be a shadow over our lives and becomes a companion at our side. It is not the end, not the savior, not the meaning. It is the tool, the servant, the silent teacher who walks with us until the end. This audiobook began with a mirror and ends with a reminder. Money is the strictest teacher, yes, but it is also the fairest. It does not bend for excuses, but it bends for growth. It does not forgive in words, but it forgives in opportunity, giving us another chance every day with every dollar to choose differently. That is its greatest justice. The past is recorded, but the future remains unwritten. So the next time you encounter money, whether in abundance or in lack, pause for a moment. Ask yourself not only what it can buy, but what it is teaching. What does your wallet reveal about your priorities? What does your savings say about your foresight? What does your giving reflect about your values? These are not idle questions. They are the very lessons money has been asking us to consider all along. Let us end with gratitude. Gratitude for the discipline money has demanded, for the patience it has forced, for the responsibility it has awakened, and for the peace it has offered once we understood. Gratitude even for its strictness, because it is through that strictness that we have grown. Money is not easy, and it is not soft, but it is fair. And in that fairness lies hope, that no matter where you begin, no matter the mistakes of the past, you can always learn, always change, always walk closer toward freedom. So hold money not with fear, not with obsession, but with respect. See in it not just numbers, but messages, not just transactions, but teachings, not just paper, but principles. In doing so, you will discover that the strictest teacher is also the one who has been rooting for you all along, not to make life harder, but to make you stronger.